Hello, hello, hello. Jordan Chariton live from New York City. Hope everyone is having a lovely, lovely day. This is Thursday, um, June 13th, 2019. And what a day it is. What a day it is. Full disclosure, I got woken up at 3 in the morning by some stuff going on from a friend of mine, and I was not able to fall asleep, so I'm a little tired, but I'm just going to push through. I got my coffee. It is a very, very busy news day. A lot of things going on. Some things going on that when I first saw it, I almost fell over. So we're going to try to separate fact and fiction today. Obviously, you know the checklist. I need you to smash the like button. I need you to smash the like button into smithereens. The more people that press the like button, the more people that will see this live stream. I am live now. We'll call you after. Sorry, I got people from Flint messaging me 20 nonstop because obviously there's big Flint news. So smash that like button. If you are currently watching this live stream through mobile, I need you to get out of the live chat for a quick second. You'll see that thumbs up under the video. Press that thumbs up button, and then you can go back into the live chat. The more people that press the like button, the more people that will see this live stream. Become a Status Coup member. We are now at 469 Status Coup members, which is great. It's definitely, we're definitely on pace to reach our goal for the end of the month, which is 500 members. We'll talk a little bit more about members later, but you know the drill. Membership is how we grow. We picked up another 8 of you fantastic people yesterday and a couple more today. So if you're on the fence, you can become a Status Coup member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Is real, independent, fearless journalism worth $5 to $10 a month or $179 annually? I think it is. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Follow us at Status Coup on the Twitter. I'm at Jordan Chariton. Subscribe to our podcast. That's bit.ly/Status Coup podcast. And join our email list. You can go to statuscoup.com, statuscoup.com, and you'll see a little box to enter your email. So, full disclosure, because I'm just a wackadoodle, I was with a friend earlier because I have a friend who is an opera singer. She is an amazing opera singer, and we were writing lyrics because she's going to create essentially an opera song to be Status Coup's opening musical song. So I can't wait for her to record that. She's recording it tomorrow. It's kind of unique, but she's an opera singer, and we're basically making an opera song about corruption. So we're sitting there working on the lyrics, and I see this headline: Flint water crisis, prosecutors drop all criminal charges. And my head almost exploded. And a reminder, this is a super chat. So if you're feeling super, you could leave a contribution right there in the chat. We're also pushing our GoFundMe. So we have currently $58,485 we've made since September. So we would love to get to $60,000 as soon as we can. So any amount is appreciated. Thank you, Sam Woods, for the $20. Thank you, M. Karen, for the $15. 38 from Patrick Coyne. So you could either leave via GoFundMe or the super chat if you so choose. So I saw this news alert that the Michigan Attorney General, Dana Nessel, she's the new Attorney General, dismissed all pending criminal cases tied to the Flint water crisis today, ending the prosecutions of 8 current and former officials accused of neglecting their duties and allowing Flint residents to drink tainted, dangerous water. When I saw that, I was absolutely horrified and stunned. So I'm going to read you a little bit more. I've spoken with a few sources, and I have a little bit more information that I want to share with you. The decision, announced years after the first charges were filed, left open the possibility for new prosecutions against some or all of the same people but it was seen by some in Flint as a sign that their crisis was being forgotten. Quote, "My hearts break for the families that have lost loved ones," said Melissa Mays, a Flint resident and water activist. "This is not justice for them. It just seems like a political ploy," she added. "The only thing it tells me is our lives don't matter." And I've been speaking with Melissa through text messages. She's a leading Flint activist and resident. The prosecutors overseeing the case, Fadwa Hamoud and Kim Worthy, blamed missteps by the previous prosecution team for their decision. They said they would continue investigating the water crisis and noted they were, quote, "not precluded from refiling charges against the defendants or adding new charges and defendants." Among the officials whose charges were dropped, the former director of Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, a state epidemiologist, a former Flint Public Works director, and emergency managers who had been appointed to oversee the city. Some defendants had faced charges as serious as involuntary manslaughter. Quote, legitimate criminal prosecutions require complete investigations. Upon assuming responsibility of this case, our team of career prosecutors and investigators had immediate and grave concerns about the investigative approach and legal theories. They're talking about from the previous prosecutor, special prosecutor. His name was Todd Flood. So, essentially, 15 people in total were charged in relation to the Flint water crisis. You have the head of the department, the head of the state Department of Health and Human Services, Nick Lyon, who was charged with involuntary manslaughter in relation to people dying of Legionella. You had the chief medical officer, Eden Wells. She was charged with involuntary manslaughter. And you had several other people charged. So I have to be extremely careful because as humbly as I could say it, I have very high up sources because I've been on the Flint water crisis story for 3 years. And there's some sources that I trust very much, and there's some sources that you take what they say with a grain of salt, but you take some of what they say and not all of it. So before I came live, I spoke with a source that I take what they say very seriously. They are somebody that is very, very high up in the state of Michigan and related and are very, very connected to the behind the scenes, what's going on with the water crisis. And I asked that person, this doesn't make sense to me. Why would you, even if there was missteps from the previous Attorney General's office and the previous special prosecutor, why would you drop all 8 of the remaining criminal cases just because there was missteps done? I can't go into every single detail because this person spoke to me in confidence. Obviously, I'm not going to say who this person is. You're going to have to trust me because, frankly, I trust my own gut, and this person has given me credible information in the past. So when I originally looked at this, like many of you watching right now, probably particularly Flint residents, I was very, very angry and did not understand. But the more I spoke with this person, who again is a very high-level source, I believe that the dismissal of these charges against the remaining 8 people that were charged is a situation where the new Attorney General and the new team there is choosing to lose a lot of battles in order to win the overall war. And what I mean by that is I believe they dropped these charges because in doing so, it would help them to get bigger fish than the individuals whose charges they dismissed. That is what I believe from the conversation I just had. That is not going to go over well with the residents of Flint, and I understand why. Because on the surface, it looks like the Attorney General of Michigan, the new Attorney General, her name is Dana Nessel, essentially just tossed out all of the charges against the very people who were behind covering up the Flint water crisis. I believe, based on the conversation I just had from a source who has not led me wrong to this point, and a person I trust, that the reason they dropped these charges is because in doing so, it will allow them to go after bigger fish. I believe bigger fish meaning potentially Governor Rick Snyder and potentially people in his administration. The biggest fish that they have gone after so far, no, James, Dana is not my source. The Attorney General is not my source. The biggest fish so far was Nick Lyon, who was charged with involuntary manslaughter and was the head of the Department of Health and Human Services. That was the highest level official that was charged. But that was not somebody in Governor Snyder's immediate office or immediate. It was a cabinet member, but it wasn't somebody in his inside circle, if you know what I mean. I believe that, again, I'm not a lawyer, but based on the conversation I had with this person, who, again, is somebody that every single thing they've told me has ended up being true so far. So I could only go by what they have told me so far has been proven true. That evidence, they are now free because they are dropping these charges. They might be free now to use evidence that they have recently discovered that they were not free to use before. So I will give you exactly what I was told. And again, I'm not going to get into who I spoke with, but I was told that there are other people in play. And there might be some additional evidence that could be used that wasn't used before. And I was told to, quote unquote, read in between the lines. This person did not want to tell me who they're going after. I'm only giving you my opinion. This is not what I was told. This is not what, I don't have anything other than my opinion and speculation and just based on knowing how politics works. Because with criminal prosecutions, there's a lot of politics involved. I think they're going after former Governor Rick Snyder. I believe some of the plea deals that they agreed to in the first place, because they did agree to a lot of plea deals. I believe some of those plea deals that they agreed to were because those people gave them information higher up. Possibly on Rick Snyder's role in the Flint water crisis. Possibly on some of his lieutenants' role in the Flint water crisis. This is common practice. This is common practice in criminal prosecutions. You start with the little fish, you dangle, a plea deal or immunity or whatever, so that they'll give you the bigger fish that you really want. I believe, I'm not a lawyer, but I have spoken with a lawyer before I went live that, if you're dropping all these cases, doesn't it kind of hand the defense a dream scenario where even if you go after bigger fish and then charge them, couldn't the defense say they already dropped all the criminal charges and now they're charging new people? This team has no idea what it's doing. It's chaos. Wouldn't it hurt the credibility of the prosecution team? That is, to me, legitimate. That's a legitimate concern. And remember, if you have not pressed the like button, we have 200 people watching, but only 114 of you have liked. If you're watching on your phone, get out of the live chat for a second, press the thumbs up button, and then you can go back in the live chat. We need more people to press the like button. So the bottom line is this. I think the residents of Flint, and at this point, I've probably interviewed hundreds of residents in Flint. Me saying, I'm not a Flint resident and I was not poisoned, but me saying that based on my sources, I have reason to believe that they are dropping these charges in order to go after the biggest fish possible. I don't know if that is going to bring comfort to the residents of Flint, and I can't honestly blame them. Somebody asked, do I believe what I was told? I do believe what I was told. I do believe what I was told. I believe it because this is a new administration. From what I have gathered from this new administration, they do want justice for Flint, whereas obviously the last one didn't want justice for Flint because they were part of the reason Flint was poisoned in the first place, a huge reason. And I think that the new Attorney General, you have to remember, the new Attorney General and the new governor, they were handed a previous prosecution from a previous Attorney General and previous prosecutors. You also have to remember that they apparently found recently a lot of documents that were not previously disclosed. They asked several times for a delay to the actual trials that were about to happen for the Department of Health and Human Services head, Nick Lyon, and other people. But what I think, based on who I spoke to, based on the fact that they have not let me down, as far as they have not given me information that did not pan out until now. I believe that for whatever reason, the Attorney General's office decided that losing these battles and just tossing them out to laser focus on bigger fish is what we need to do. And I don't believe they would have done this unless they have firm evidence and concrete evidence against these bigger fish. And when I say bigger fish, I believe the bigger fish they're talking about is the governor. It's Rick Snyder and people extremely close to him in his office. That's what I believe. And I've reported this in the past, but about 2 years ago, I had a very high up source very close to the prosecution team. That's all I'll say. I had a very high up source that knew what was going on behind the scenes in the prosecution team. And that high up source had told me, flat out, that there was evidence, that the prosecutors on that prosecution team had evidence to charge the governor with something. It could have been involuntary manslaughter, it could have been criminal negligence while in office. And they were stopped by the then Republican Attorney General, Bill Schuette, who did not want to charge Governor Snyder because the Attorney General was running for governor, and you probably wouldn't have a chance of getting that dirty Republican money if you indict the current governor, Rick Snyder. So, I understand why people watching me right now would say, would think I'm being naive, or would look at the headline of the story and think, oh, these people are going to get away with it, and corruption. All I can tell you is I've lived this, I have breathed this since 2016. I have probably spoken with, at this point, hundreds of Flint residents. I have spoken with local politicians. I have spoken with local activists. I have spoken with lawyers. I have spoken with doctors. I know enough of the players involved, and I know enough of how the politics are involved. I think that, am I happy that they have dropped these charges? No. But do I think them dropping the charges is the end game of this? I don't. I think that this is a case where they are choosing to lose several battles in order to win the war. And I personally think if you gave Flint residents a choice, would you rather us go to trial with these people and use our resources on these people that we just dismissed the charges, or bring charges against Governor Rick Snyder? I'm pretty sure the large majority would say the latter, Governor Rick Snyder. But I don't pretend to know what the people of Flint are feeling on this day when you see a headline that the Attorney General's office has dropped all of the criminal charges against the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services head, who was charged with involuntary manslaughter, 2 emergency managers that were involved with the switch to the Flint River, the chief medical officer of the state, all people that it has been demonstrated helped to cover this up and did not act swiftly as residents were complaining of rashes, hair loss, nosebleeds. But I do believe, I trust my gut. My gut has not taken me to the wrong, my gut has not failed me yet as far as the Flint water crisis, so I'm going to continue sticking with my gut. I believe that, I don't want to say this was the right thing to do, but I understand why they did it based on the source that I spoke with. I think there is a greater and larger end game in mind, and that is why I believe they dropped these charges. So, that's it. I think that's a hard pill for Flint residents to swallow today. I also think, frankly, it was a gigantic conflict of interest in the first place that the previous Attorney General, Bill Schuette, who's a Republican, was also running for governor. So, of course, the Republican Attorney General is not going to bring charges against the sitting Republican governor if that Republican Attorney General wants to be the next governor. If the Republican Attorney General, Bill Schuette, who was running for governor of Michigan, had brought charges against Governor Rick Snyder or people close to him, he was not going to have a chance in the election because he would have never gotten a dime from the bigwigs in the Republican Party who fund their elections. That is why I believe they never brought charges against Governor Rick Snyder or anyone close to him, even though there was evidence. And my sources tell me there is evidence. There is evidence that could be used to go after bigger fish. So you either trust me or you don't. I can understand if you don't. But I think actions speak louder than words. And I hope you know I would not be speaking like this and I would not be saying the things I'm saying today if I did not absolutely trust where I'm getting it from. I am not somebody who just gossips. You charge people and then get them to flip. You don't dismiss charges and then expect them to turn. Correct. So you would have to think they got them to turn before they dismissed the charges. This is how it works. You get people to flip, give you the information you need before you give them anything. So I believe that is part of what has happened here. I believe part of why they made those plea deals in the first place, because they made plea deals with several people, was to get the goods on bigger fish. Anthony Reyes, is that inside info, Jordan? Everything I'm telling you is inside info. I'm not going to tell you where it's coming from because I'm a journalist and I have to honor, a relationship with a source is confidential, obviously, so I can't communicate to you who the source is, where they come from, those kinds of things. But I think you know me well enough to know that I would not recklessly report something if I didn't actually think it was true. Obviously, we could all make mistakes. Reporters get burned by sources all the time. Eric Mays is not my source, puppet master. But close try. I like Eric Mays. Reporters get burned all the time. I've trusted sources in the past, and they were wrong. It doesn't mean the source is knowingly lying to you. They could just be wrong, and you could be wrong for trusting them. All I know is the source that I'm referring to is somebody who has not steered me wrong yet. And I've used their information many, many times, and they were right. So, but at the end of the day, in America, we know we have three legal systems. We have a legal system for rich and powerful people, particularly white people. We have a legal system for you and I, working people. And then there's a third legal system for black people, for brown people, for, LGBT people, for indigenous people and all that. I do not think this is a case of them just letting people off scot-free. I believe this is a case. I think there's political considerations involved, but I also think there's considerations involved that to get the information they needed on the biggest fish possible, they needed to drop these charges. That's what I believe. So you have to ask yourself, as a prosecution team, do you drop these charges, or make plea deals, or just completely drop the charges, and use your resources on going after bigger fish, which is going to take a lot of resources? Or do you not get that information to try and charge lower level people? I think they made the decision to drop these charges so that they could go after bigger fish. So there will be a meeting tomorrow with the Solicitor General of Michigan, Fadwa Hammoud, and Flint residents. They're calling it a community conversation. Obviously, she is going to be under significant scrutiny. The residents of Flint, I'm sure, are going to have a lot of questions and needing a lot of answers. And we'll see what happens. But all I know is this story is not finished. I also could tell you that I have been working on a story behind the scenes that is even bigger than the story we already broke regarding the state of Michigan under Governor Rick Snyder cheating on the water testing. The story that I'm working on is bigger than that. Not to minimize that, because that was scandalous in its own right. But the story that I'm working on is even bigger than that. If you could even imagine something more corrupt than that, it's even bigger than that. So that's the story there. But again, all of the criminal charges for 8 remaining people, including the head of the Department of Health and Human Services, the chief medical officer, the emergency managers, the director of public works, have been dropped. I'm not in love with it, but again, based on a source that I very much trust, I believe that they are doing this to go after bigger fish. So we'll have to see how it plays out. We really will. But I'll tell you one thing, and you could take this to the bank, you could put it in your pipe and smoke it. I and Status Quo will not be done covering the Flint water crisis until there's some justice provided. If that requires till my deathbed, then that's what we're going to do. We are going to continue covering the Flint water crisis because, as I've always said, this is not only about Flint, Michigan. This is not only about water. This is about, do we live in a country or do we live in a Hunger Games? This is about, do we live in a country or do we live in a corporation? This is about, do we live in a country that if our citizens are poisoned with no fault of their own, we then leave them to fend for themselves and die? I believe, and Status Quo believes, we should not normalize that. We should not normalize that. So we will keep covering this. And trust me, I vet the sources who give me information. I would not be telling you this if I didn't have reason to think it was true. So that's the deal. I will keep you updated on this story. Obviously, why we have been trying to grow our membership is to cover in the field stories like this. I have personally, since 2016, reported in Flint, Michigan 14 times. We would like to go out and report on other water contamination stories. We would like to go out and cover other environmental genocide stories. Right now, Keystone XL Pipeline just was granted a new permit because of a court of appeals that reversed an injunction that was stopping the pipeline from being constructed. So as of now, the Keystone XL Pipeline construction will begin as early as beginning of 2020. I believe that if that pipeline is built, that is the next Standing Rock. I also believe if the Keystone XL Pipeline is built, you're going to see a lot more violence, even worse than Standing Rock. We want to be on the ground to cover this now, not then, now. Why it is still early enough to expose what's going on and wake more people up. We want to be able to cover other communities that are having water contamination. There was just a video sent out of a West Virginia town that has purple water coming out of their faucets. And they were told by the local officials, yeah, just drink. You could drink it. As long as you dilute it, you could drink it. Yeah, just drink the purple water. You'll be fine. Obviously, we want to get out on the campaign trail. There's a lot of things we want to do. So I hope you'll consider, 200 of you watching, if there's some of you that are on the fence, I hope you'll consider becoming a Status Quo member. Before I move on to the next topic, here's what we've already done on the campaign trail. Again, you can become a Status Quo member for as low as $5 to $10 a month or $179 annually. I've been speaking with people online waiting to get in for a few hours, and a common thing you kind of hear from Bernie voters is, let's finish what we started.
We're going to win this election because we are putting together the strongest grassroots campaign in the history of American politics.
Power to the people.
I'm live, sorry.
Hey everybody, look at Status Quo is out doing, what do they call this, reporting.
We the people, we got to be running Bernie as an independent regardless now.
Why is it that all of the money is going to the 1% and, our wages are staying flat? I mean, everybody's working hard. We're all going for the American dream, but it's not happening.
The United States, if you were president, have to look at some of the things it's doing to spark radicalization.
Yeah, I think it is important to look at the ideology that is driving different terrorist groups.
Take a look outside of New York at the plight of the working man and woman of this country.
And we gotta keep it 100 and respect and lift up our black women. Most of them putting in that work was black women.
What does it mean to be a leader? Everybody in the front ain't a leader. You judge a leader by the work that he or she produces. We have a lack of leadership because we have people who are trying to force other people to be leaders.
He's going to need people actually correcting the record, because I think a lot of people, particularly some older, more establishment voters, think he's a socialist boogeyman, and they're going to need people knocking on their door to explain, no, he's not. He's just trying to do basically what like FDR did.
Where would we be if JFK said, going to the moon is the pioneers? I don't know. No, we make the decision to do it, and then we figure it out.
Bernie Sanders is at least coming out saying, hey, this is what I'm about. I've been saying the same thing throughout my entire 40 years of politics, and I have not detracted from that stand.
Kimberly Ellis, who's an African-American woman running for chair, and she almost beat Eric Bauman 2 years ago. And a lot of people think she did beat Eric Bauman, that he cheated to win. Anyway, Eric Bauman was forced to resign in November because of sexual harassment.
The Democratic Party likes to talk a lot of nonsense all the time about we support women of color, we're here from women of color, but when it comes time to create space for them to talk about the issues that are bothering them, they're never there to show up.
So is this your first Bernie Sanders rally?
Yes.
Okay. So what? I'm a convert.
I think when the debates come around, I'd like to see him go a lot harder against his opponents. I like to see him call them out for the corruption that is very obvious.
This is why Status Quo exists. All the corporate folks have left. We're still here.
I want somebody to come in that's not owned, that doesn't owe anybody anything, get our country back, get our country right again.
We have seen throughout history far too many examples of how U.S.-led regime change have been driven, frankly, by corporate interests.
Become a member of the Status Quo. We appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all. I thank y'all so much. I'm literally doing my dream job because of y'all.
Now seeing Mexican kids getting deported without their parents, and it's just not okay. I'm just really disrespected. So I hope the next president does something good about this.
Well, your personal opinion is based on working in finance, not actually going out into the country and seeing what's actually happening. That was a promo video that Ty put together. Again, you could become a Status Quo member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Help us get to 500 members by the end of June. If we could get to 500 members, that coupled with our 337 Patreons, we're already over 800 combined between Patreon and our website. So we're trying to grow through our website. Because, we don't want to rely on a third-party platform like Patreons. Not that we don't love our patrons. But we want to get to 500 for the exact reason that you just saw. To continue having the funds to go out, cover the campaign, give the microphone back to the people, rather than having pundits and lobbyists on cable news 24/7 bloviating about bullshit that they have no idea about, bloviating when they haven't spoken to a real, everyday, breathing American that lives paycheck to paycheck ever. We want to be out there speaking with you. We want to be out there giving the microphone back to you. So I hope if you're on the fence, obviously if you don't have an extra $5 to $10 a month, we don't want to make your situation worse. Obviously keep your money. But if you do have $5 to $10 a month or $179 annually, go become a member now. We also got our GoFundMe going, so I want to thank everybody for continuing to donate to our GoFundMe. We just got $10 from Jeffrey Barker, another $10 from Kelly Elaine, who's consistently donating. Sam Woods, $20. So thank you. We're now $500, $495 away from $59,000, and our GoFundMe is being used to also fund our in the field reporting. So, from one really terrible thing, the Flint water crisis story I just told you about, to Julian Assange. Obviously, Julian Assange has been in a British prison for weeks now. He was moved to the hospital wing of the prison because he is struggling health-wise. He's reportedly lost a lot of weight. Apparently, his lawyer couldn't even speak with him because cognitively he was struggling. This could be part post-traumatic stress because he was just basically imprisoned in an embassy for the last 7 years. There's a lot of things that could be happening to cause him problems. Obviously, the Trump administration has all but thrown out the pretense that they care about the freedom of the First Amendment. They don't care. And they have been trying to get Julian Assange extradited to the United States, which, if he is extradited to the United States, he's probably looking at life in prison, probably solitary confinement. I don't know if he would get the death penalty. I'm sure they would want to, but they would probably be trying to file as many charges as possible to make sure he never sees daylight again, which is essentially criminalizing journalism. And I really don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it anymore from people who say he's not a journalist. What did he do? What did he do that wasn't journalism? They have provided zero evidence that Julian Assange helped Chelsea Manning hack into government or Pentagon or CIA or any government servers. There is zero evidence they have provided that Julian Assange was a collaborator in hacking into the government database or anything like that. Thank you, Maddie999 in the super chat. How do I get tickets to the debate in Miami? I don't know how you get tickets, actually. I really don't. You'll have to look that up. I'm not sure how you get tickets. Right now, to keep it real, right now we are not going to be going down to the Miami debates. Ty has not moved to New York yet. So a one-way flight just for Ty to get from Miami to LA, we can't find anything cheaper than $500. When you add my flight, when you add having to rent a car, when you add hotels, it's pretty expensive just for basically a day or two to get down there. And we have to be careful with our money because we're growing, but we don't have an unlimited amount of money right now to spend. So we're hoping that we could fundraise a little more to get down there. But as of right now, we don't have the funding to be down there, which I would love to be down there for the first debate on June 26th and 27th. There's going to be two debates, the 26th and the 27th. The DNC says it's going to be a random selection who's going to be on the debate stage. I don't really trust them. But if you want us down there, keep funding us. If we could get another $1,000 to $2,000 before then, that would give us the money to go down there. So today, the British Home Judge, whatever that position is, the Home Secretary, Saeed Javid, has revealed he has signed a request for Julian Assange to be extradited to the United States, where he faces charges of computer hacking. Speaking on BBC Radio's Fours Today program, he said he's rightly behind bars. There is an extradition request for the U.S. that is before the courts tomorrow, but yesterday I signed the extradition order and certified it, and that will be going in front of the courts tomorrow. Javid's decision opens the way to the court sending the WikiLeaks founder to the U.S. Assange faces an 18-count indictment issued by the Department of Justice that includes charges under the Espionage Act. He is accused of soliciting and publishing classified information and conspiring to hack into a government computer. Javid said, quote, "It is a decision ultimately for the courts, but there is a very important part of it, for the Home Secretary, and I want to see justice done at all times, and we've got a legitimate extradition request, so I've signed it, but the final decision is now with the courts." This is, make no mistake about it, they are rubber stamping Julian Assange's extradition. To me, the court hearing, which is tomorrow, is just a formality. I think they're going to extradite Julian Assange. I think the fix is in. I think they want to make an example out of him. I think they want to totally intimidate and dissuade, fearless journalism in America, and frankly, it seems around the world. Julian Assange, whatever you think about him, you could think Julian Assange is a Putin puppet. You could think that he helped Russia embarrass Hillary Clinton, although I've never seen any evidence that WikiLeaks' source was Russia. The corporate media just regurgitates that it's fact. It's not fact. There was never any evidence provided. And call me fucking old-fashioned, but I like evidence before I'm about to declare that WikiLeaks, got the Podesta leaks or the DNC's emails from Russia. Call me old-fashioned. I require some evidence before I start talking like that. But really, what their whole indictment is based on, the smoking gun, is that Julian Assange tried to help Chelsea Manning figure out a password, and to figure out a password to protect her identity, which is a journalist's top responsibility. A journalist's top responsibility is not just to break a story, it's to protect their sources for the story. Julian Assange did not work with Chelsea Manning to hack into government computer files and government documents. He did not work with Chelsea Manning to do that. He encouraged Chelsea Manning to provide WikiLeaks with the information and the documents, which is what journalists do all the time. You try and manipulate sources sometimes. You try and encourage them. You try and lift them up. You try and give them the courage to do it. When they get cold feet, you get back on them. It's like trying to take somebody to the river. You can't make them drink the water, but I can take you to the water. This is one of the most disgusting. And welcome, new status coup member, Taylor Granger. Danger Granger. Thank you, Taylor. We are now at 470 status coup members. So we are 30 away from our goal for the end of June. So thank you, Taylor, for joining the media revolution. The rest of you could do it for as low as $5 to $10 a month. What is $5 to $10 a month or $179 annually worth to you? Is it worth it to get us in the field? Because we are covering stories that no other media outlet is covering. So thank you, Taylor. Welcome. You are number 470, and I will put the link in because Jen's not feeling well today. She's not in the Super Chat. Welcome, and join us for the rest of you that are sitting on the fence. So make no mistake about it. They have zero evidence that Julian Assange was an active participant in hacking government documents. If they did, don't you think Barack Obama's Justice Department would have had this evidence for 7 years? They chose not to prosecute Julian Assange because they knew they didn't have evidence that clearly showed he wasn't acting as a journalist, but acting as a participant. There was no evidence of that, or else Obama's Department of Justice would have indicted him. The reason Trump's administration is indicting him is they don't give a damn about the law. They don't care. And the CIA, I'm super cheap, but I'm really considering joining. XOXO. I'm super cheap too for things that don't matter. I'm super cheap for things that don't matter. But you have to ask yourself, if you have the $5 a month, if you have the $10 a month, is this something that you could afford not to have? Because I got news for you. I'm not saying status quo is the best of the best of the best, but I can tell you one thing. If we are not able to fund the journalism we want to do, there is no one else doing it. That is not to be cocky, but when I go to Flint, when I go to Seattle to cover Amazon's economic terrorism there, when I go to Detroit and Warren, Michigan to cover the fact that General Motors laid off 15,000 workers, when we go to Virginia to cover mothers and daughters protesting in their trees for 30 days because the oil company is threatening to cut down their trees to ram a pipeline through their backyard, there's no national media on the ground for any of these stories. So if you want to be cheap on other things. Don't cheap out on real independent journalism, not to blow up your spot. But getting back to this, the Trump administration, basically, because the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, the Pentagon, all of the military-industrial complex, they hate Julian Assange because they are not open. If there's one thing the military-industrial complex is not, they are not reflective people. They do not care to look and see, well, maybe it's a good thing that WikiLeaks and Julian Assange exposed war crimes, exposed that the United States was recklessly and indiscriminately and without regard for anybody killing Iraqis. Because to them, the bigger crime is exposing the barbarism and the murder that has been the United States empire. To them, the crime is not what the United States did. The crime is exposing it. And they are trying to shut up those who would try to expose it. That's what this is. So you want to talk about that Trump is a grave threat to journalists because he tweets mean things about Chuck Todd? I don't give a flying fuck what Donald Trump tweets about Chuck Todd or any other journalist. Is it untoward for the President of the United States to be doing these things? Sure. But I don't really care that Donald Trump is tweeting out nasty things about journalists. I care that Donald Trump and his Department of Justice is trying to redefine what makes a journalist and what makes a participant in a crime. I do not want the Department of Justice and Mike Pompeo and John Bolton and Elliot Abrams deciding who is and who is not a journalist. That is not where we should be going. Because if you leave it to government officials to decide who is a journalist, what is or is not acts of journalism, they are going to err on the side of getting rid of the actual journalists. And Julian Assange has not. Thank you, Darth Corey, $2 for the swear jar. Julian Assange, let me repeat. Julian Assange, there has been zero. Ooh, another Status Quo member. Welcome, Christian Gomez. Status Quo member 471. 471. Welcome, Christian Gomez. Now a coup de commander. So we are now at 471. 471 Status Quo members. So excited when you guys sign up. I can't thank you enough. Here's the link again because Jen's a little under the weather, so I'm going live and doing the super chat. There it is. That's how you join. Honestly, $5 to $10 a month, and Jen just upload. By the way, if you don't know, it's not like charity. We also are creating exclusive content just for our members. We also have a monthly video call with our members. Not just like a live chat, but a video call where we talk to our members. We're probably going to do that one next week, I think. So you're getting bonus content. Ty, now that he's done with the documentary, is actually working on new content just for members. So it's not just that you're supporting Status Quo, but you're also going to get exclusive member-only content and a lot of behind-the-scenes content too. So keep it coming, keep it coming. So Status Quo talks about Assange while TYT talks about Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Well, don't get me started on the Young Turks. That's all I'll say about that. Do not get me started on the Young Turks. I will leave my former employee out of this. My former employer out of it, but needless to say, I have not been impressed with what they cover, especially what they don't cover. But I choose to focus on going forward, not backward. And I'm not going to spend my time worrying about what the Young Turks does or does not do, because I think status quo is a lot better, frankly. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, let me be very, very clear with you. Fascism happens. There's several precursors to fascism. One of them is censorship. So what they're trying to do in extraditing Julian Assange, and by the way, this home judge, or what's his name? This official was the Home Secretary. By him signing the United States' extradition request, he's essentially rubber stamping it. He's essentially rubber stamping. For a court, the first court hearing tomorrow for extradition for Julian Assange is tomorrow. He's essentially extradited, rubber stamping for that court to sign off on the extradition. And make no mistake about it, if they sign off on the extradition, he is going to be extradited ASAP. And if he is extradited, he will not get a fair trial. It will be a pony trial, and he will be thrown into a solitary confinement cell for the rest of his life, and the key will be thrown away. So I'm a journalist, I'm not an activist, I'm not telling you what to do, but what I believe needs to be done is people need to get out on the streets and protest this. And in front of the White House. Not for a day, not for 2 days, but until he is released. Because I am promising you, and there is stakes for me, there are stakes for Jen, there is stakes for Ty, there are stakes for actual journalists who do this work here. Because if this is what they're going to do to Julian Assange, they're coming for us next. They're coming for actual journalists. They're not coming for Chuck Todd. They're not coming for Wolf Blitzer. They're not coming for Rachel Maddow. They're not coming for the New York Times because they practice propaganda and public relations, not journalism. They are coming for us. Again, his court hearing is tomorrow. I will update you. Obviously, we're going to be monitoring it here. It could potentially be chosen. It could be decided tomorrow that he is extradited. And frankly, if Donald Trump is the president and he is a rule of law president, they have zero law behind them. If you read the indictments against Julian Assange, they are putting in these indictments things like he knew Chelsea Manning was accessing information illegally and he took it anyway. Yeah, the New York Times knew that Daniel Ellsberg was accessing the Pentagon Papers illegally. So did the Washington Post. Why was the New York Times or the Washington Post not indicted or charged? Because it was decided in America that publishers and journalists have the ability to publish classified information if they do it responsibly. Obviously, you have to be careful about giving away sources and giving away undercover agents and things like that. But if this was illegal behavior, then every single New York Times journalist who has written a story or reported using classified information should be jailed too. Washington Post, Associated Press, all of them. And of course, they should not be. Chelsea Manning decided that it was worth it to her to do something illegally that could land her in jail, and she did the hard time. And she is a hero. She is brave, and she is a hero, and she is currently back in jail because she refused to testify to a grand jury against Julian Assange. Welcome, new Status Quo member, Kelly Sawyers. Kelly Sawyers. We are now at 472. 472 Status Quo members. Oh my God, I'm ready to smoke a pipe. I'm so excited. We have grown so many members over the last few days. Just yesterday, let me count them. Just yesterday we grew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 yesterday, and so far today, We have grown 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't thank you guys enough. The more members we have, the less begging I have to do for money, because we will have recurring funding coming in. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't thank you guys enough. Let me just one more minute put the link in for those of you that are on the fence who might want to contribute and become a member. Join the media revolution. And I'll update that graph right now. We're at 472. So the last thing I'll say on this is that, and oh, God, an update every minute. We also just got $30 from Barbara Rosenthal in the GoFundMe. Thank you, Barbara. So we're now at $58,535. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There's the GoFundMe link. So, and by the way, when you become a member, you then click on member content on the website, statusquo.com, click on member content, and you'll have access to all our content just for members. Patreons get the same content too, patrons. So I'll end with this. This is not about Julian Assange, folks. I don't care if you like Julian Assange, if you hate Julian Assange, it really doesn't matter. This is about, do we live in a country that has a freedom of the press, or do we not? Do we live in a country that basically is a banana republic and a fascist state, or are we in a democracy? Because I got news for you. If they do this to Julian Assange, if they put Julian Assange in a solitary confinement cell and throw away the key, you're not going to have. You might have fearless journalists, but you're going to have truth shut down because they are going to criminalize the distributors of those truth. I'm willing to go to jail if I have to. But the problem is, if they are able to shut down the distributors of fact, the distributors who break and expose stories of war crimes like Julian Assange has, if they're able to cut them off, if they're able to cut the snake off at the head, the snake meaning people like Julian Assange, a snake in a good way, and they're able to criminalize what they're doing before they're able to actually break the stories that matter, then we are in a very, very dangerous time, folks. And I don't want to live in a country like that. I do not want to live in a country like that. That's it, folks. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern time. Remember, membership is how we grow. I will keep on the Flint water update. I am not going to let that go, as you know. We will have other exciting news. I will update you. Obviously, if you are not yet following Status Quo on Twitter, we are updating all the time. We're putting out our videos on Twitter, and we're going to be updating you as news breaks on Status Quo's Twitter. So go to Status Quo on the Twitter and follow us. Right now, we are at 6,164 followers. We honestly just started tweeting a lot. We basically weren't using our Twitter, which was dumb on our part, but we were doing so many other things. So definitely go check it out. We'll have updates on Flint there. We'll have updates on the Assange court hearing tomorrow and many other things. Thank you for watching. You can also remember, if you're not doing it right now, give it an hour or two. Think about it. Become a member. 472 we have now. Our goal for the end of this month is 500. And remember, most people are not lacking compassion in this country. Most people have no fucking idea what the hell is going on. Peace out.